And like what I will point out, man, is that each one of these lessons, they are significant interpretations of the symbols that you hold in the subconscious.
Yes. I see that.
Facts.
You understand what I'm saying? And I don't, with so much going on every day, right? And I'm gonna just use the term the matrix, right? You get so caught up in keeping the routine things routine. I don't really know. I know I didn't, right? Take the time to really consider what I take a mental snapshot of. And think about all the snapshots you take that you don't work through.
Right.
20 years, 25 years,
Right.
30 years, so on and so forth. And now when you finally get to a place where you can sit down somewhere, everything start coming up.
It's like an attack, right? At least it could feel like an attack.
It can fit. It can be. It
like
can.
you're in a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm gathering from you brothers is like the negative and the positive ideas that are on the spectrum. They just are what they are.
Right.
Right? We've come along over time and said, well, that's evil and that's good. And if that's where you at, that's what's up.
Right.
I'm not hating. You understand what I'm saying? But at some point, right, because ultimately, right, people generally say the same thing as far as like, you know what? I want better for my life. I want better for my state of awareness, my consciousness, right? But we hold ourselves captive to the terminology associated with the things that we don't work through.
Right.
Which can make the experience more challenging. At whatever stage that you in, right? So to a point you made earlier, you can accept these things, and to accept these things, as far as I understand it, is to work through them. Not necessarily fight them, but work through them, work with them.
One could say love through them.
Love through them.
Right.
I could say that too.
Exactly. Understand it.
Understand it.
Allowing.
Because it's not here for, no reason.
Right.
Like I said last week, man. When you was born, you looked like your father. Right?
Right.
But when you turn 30,
Come on.
40, you look like all the decisions you made.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
You
The
look
body
like
will bear witness.
it will.
It will. Definitely.
You look like every last decision you made.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you don't get that, I'm gonna just put it plainly. If you've been laying bricks all your life, look at your hands. Versus a person that wash dishes all day, every day.
Good analogy.
That's what you putting yourself through.
Is one positive or one negative?
Right.
It's the hard versus the soft.
Exactly.
And in martial arts, you have a hard style and you have soft styles.
Right.
Exactly. Soft, hard.
Right.
And they both could be painful.
Yeah.
So
Facts.
it's based on perspective.
Perspective.
Now we moving into like your cultural perspective, your familiar perspective, your religious perspective. And as we were talking about last week, we were talking about the gods.
Right.
And this is kind of segueing into that. And we kind of put it into a framework that these gods were aspects of source, again, terms, removed to polarize into love, light, and negativity.
Right.
Some people would say some of these beings are angels and some of these beings are demons.
Right.
As Sifu said, well, we could just say they were extraterrestrials or aliens or whatever the case may be. But when they came to this area, they had their agendas. And when you get into a lot of channeling texts, different types of scriptures, my own personal channeling, it comes into the understanding that all the glory goes back to the source because all is of the source.
Right.
But at the same time, it's understanding that we're dealing with advanced beings that our ancestors did the best that they could to describe what was happening in those times. And like my brother always says, a lot of the information that we have and that we look at is very redacted.
Right.
And even compile and compress, where you're talking about spans of time, eons of times that battles and wars and all types of things happen, and then destruction, cataclysm, and then a renewing, and then
Right.
your spring, your summer, your fall, and your winter. But now look at this as a bigger spectrum of the planet, a planetary cycles that's happened where these beings cause a lot of devastation and so on and so forth. So now going back to why we think the way we think when it comes to religion is based on whatever God you attach yourself to.
Right.
Because you take on the teachings and the lessons that comes from that particular deity or sovereign or whatever words you want to use for it.
Right.
I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Well, with that, because if you go into these texts and they're in the ancient language, right? I encourage everyone, especially if you're dealing with the Hebrew language, right? I would say go into these root words, because within the root words is something hidden there. Now, you may not get it at first. You may not see it at first, but once you start dwelling in it, you'll start seeing things up in there that's like will catch your eye, especially when you're dealing with root words.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
It's a lot of so we came to years ago, we should teach and talk about like the Hebrew language is very concrete.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you get into like Western thought and Western understandings, concrete, Eastern is concrete, and Western ideology is abstract. Now, mind you, we're dealing with polarity again.
Right.
We're dealing with masculine and feminine.
Right. Exactly.
So when we say things like that, we can't have it two different ways. You can't say that something is concrete and then talk about abstract spirit.
Right. Right. Right.
And a lot of my brothers and sisters, they go into the spirit realm, and it's a lot of concrete things that it's saying right there in the text.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? When we talk about, the yo-hey, wah-hey and things that happen in that time, it's very concrete in what it's saying, but we explain it away into an abstract world, not thinking that we're talking about how our ancestors described technology.
Oh, you talking about like the wheel?
Wheels within wheels?
Yeah, the wheel within wheels.
He went by a pillar of cloud by day.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was like lightning at night.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if you in the ancient times and you seen something that you may not be wise to or privy to, it may, we may see like these lights flashing or something, and we call it lightning.
Right.
In a vehicle, some type of vehicle.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm not saying that's what it isn't either. But we can't go from concrete and then just shoot to abstract when we're saying that this is a concrete language. But how do you get the abstract thought? So looking at these paradoxes and these understandings, you have these beings that we've subjected ourselves to over the eons. And now I think we're in a time where we're returning to the source, but it's opposition. It's mental opposition. It's certain things that's ingrained in our collective consciousness that causes some of us to fight against it.
Right.
Well, yeah, man, because a lot of the religious text, they had ideological attachments, and we've attached ourselves to a lot of those things because for whatever the reason, you're gonna come up with whatever the reason is that you feel.
Well, a lot of times when you look at it, right, and this is the paradox of it. When you have rules and guidelines, we say laws, statutes, and commandments, but I'll say rules and guidelines of how to live a life. It to for all extensive purpose, it protects you on some levels.
I agree,
and it also separates you
Right.
on other levels. It's a matter of where the consciousness lies and how one looks at it. Because I could sit here and say, well, dang, God wants me to go through and kill all the women, all the children, all the cattle, all the sheep, dash the babies up against the rocks or whatever the case may be. And that's righteous. But I have to justify it by saying, oh, because they were wicked. So the paradox is going to fall in like, okay, were they attacking us? Why are we doing this? You see what I'm saying? And people will find the justification in the why. Mm-hmm. If we're being invaded, well, they invaded me. I mean, it does say to give terms when we're talking about Torah or Tanakh. It talks about gives them terms. Right. And if they accept your terms, they're going to build your cities. They're going to be bearers of water. You see what I'm saying? They're going to be pretty much your servants. They're going to have servile function in the community. So,
but those are the things that we abhor at the same time.
You talking about as a people? As a people. Yes.
Right. Those are the same things that we do not like. It's the same things that we're complaining about today.
Right.
But if the shoe was turned on the other foot, we would accept them as the Creator said it.
Well, I know some brothers like to say it's a right. We gonna put other people that put us in servitude in a righteous servitude.
Well, there's no Hebrew word for righteous servitude.
Well, that's what they call it.
I'm saying from the point that you was making about something being concrete.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just saying that's what they are saying.
I know.
Yeah, and the thing is like I'm not saying that they're wrong because they're doing what their God told them to do.
Right.
So they're not wrong according to what God, that particular God, told them to do. It's a matter now of, as consciousness elevates, do you choose to still serve that path? Whatever label you want to put on that path, it's a path. Now, my question is to anybody that's listening, right? Put ourselves back in those times, right? Put yourself back in those times. I understand you have Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, some say Yahweh. You have Moloch. Now, Moloch, according to what they say, ask people to pass the children to the fire.
Whatever that was.
You have Asheroth. You have Amalek. Did Amalek have, or was that Moloch? I think you had Ekron.
Yeah, Ekron.
You had all these different deities
Amalek
at that time.
Was a people.
Amalek was a people, but I can't remember what their god was. I don't know if it was Molech or Ekron. But in the scripture, it talks about wood and stone. I'm not talking about the wood and stone. I'm talking about the actual beings that these people used to follow at some point in time.
Right.
And they used to ask for food, virgins, so on and so forth. So I'm saying put yourself in these times and then think about that. If your child doesn't do something that you think is morally right, will you be the first one to put your hands on them and put them to death? You know, it's a lot of questions. And again, I'm not saying this like as if it was wrong, because it is what it is. It's a matter of today. We're living in a place where you're going to go to jail.
Yeah.
So now you have to decide in this time, this dispensation of time, how you're going to move. What is love like for you and what is negativity for you?
Right.
And that's what it's all about. It's all about the learning of self and of learning of source through yourself. Exactly. And who it is that you want to be as you move through this earth, in your deeds and your actions and your thoughts, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I see you over there. I see the wheels spinning over there, brother.
Oh yeah. I'll probably keep that for off script though.